Oceans around the world play a significant role in regulating climate, serving as carbon sinks. They absorb carbon dioxide, they soak up heat, produce half Earth's oxygen and drive weather patterns as well. Now, in a move to protect the world's oceans, which is so necessary, 67 countries have come together and signed a new UN treaty. The first ever treaty on the international high seas marks a step forward in efforts by these countries to reverse the damage done to fragile marine environments. Now, this global pact was agreed upon after a long tussle in March this year. It was later adopted by the United Nations in June. The treaty is now seen as an important tool to meet the target of protecting 30% of the Earth's land and sea by 2030. UN also called the plan 30 by 30. Signatories to the treaty include the United States, Chile, Fiji, Norway and the European Union as a whole. But even after nearly 70 signatures at the United Nations General Assembly, the treaty needs to be adopted at the national level before it goes into effect. Now, the treaty will only come into effect 120 days after 60 countries ratify it. In his response to the treaty, the executive director of the NGO Greenpeace International said, and I'm quoting here, "This signing is purely a symbolic movement. Now, politicians must bring the treaty home and ensure it is ratified in record time. The treaty changes the way of viewing the ocean from a big garbage dump to a place which we take care of. The agreement will create ocean sanctuaries where fishing will be prohibited. It will also ensure that human activity on the high seas is subject to environmental impact assessments." According to an estimate by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, around $500 million will be required to implement the treaty. Another $100 million would be required for its special implementation and capacity building fund. After 15 years of discussion, the United Nations sealed the first treaty on the high seas in June by consensus. The high seas are defined as the ocean starting beyond countries' exclusive economic zones, which is 200 nautical miles or 370 kilometers off coastlines. They cover nearly half the planet. The ocean is facing continuous threats like overfishing, rising temperatures, and even ocean bed mining. New threats could also emerge from using geoengineering technologies that help the oceans absorb carbon dioxide better. Earlier, Greenpeace had called for the faster adoption of the treaty as overfishing in international waters has surged in the past 5 years.
Go to the UN next week to sign the treaty when it opens for signatures. Then once they've signed, they need to go on and ratify it as quickly as possible, because our new report that's out today, it really makes it absolutely clear that there is no time to waste. The threats to the oceans are mounting. Governments need to act now, so they need to ratify the treaty as quickly as they can and start setting the wheels in motion for delivering vast ocean sanctuaries on the high seas.
Environmental groups like Greenpeace are saying that the High Seas Treaty must be brought fully into effect by 2025 at the latest to ensure that 30 by 30 target is achieved. The treaty, officially known as the Treaty on Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, also introduces requirements to carry out environmental impact studies for proposed activities on the high seas. Oceans are critical for the health of the planet as they protect often microscopic biodiversity that supports half of the oxygen breathed by land life. The oceans are also critical to limiting climate change by helping absorb greenhouse gas emissions. So it's just absolutely imperative that people pressure their governments and encourage them to see this treaty process through by ratifying it as quickly as possible.